The institution's leadership, of course, has its doctrines. Asterisk. These are first smuggled behind the defensive ramparts of the institution by well-meaning, level-headed administrators, those who revere the neo-avant-garde madly but recognize that you can't expect these geniuses to pay attention to electricity bills, public sector salary charts, accreditation lobbying, funding systems, grant monitoring, international communications, or building maintenance. So they must gently assist in these, earthbound, matters. And the administrators do everything necessary, expecting no gratitude in return, satisfied in the knowledge that it is they, personally, who keep everything together. Without them, there would already be nothing left, only desolate sand. As the world gradually stiffens around them, the neo-avant-garde artist can no longer create a living environment around themselves, only a final stronghold, a last refuge. The dwindling Indian summer of freedom. This is the administrator's golden age. Every step they take to align the institution with some general norm can be interpreted as a temporary rescue of another piece of intellectual value from total ruin. From now on, this or that can personally be credited to them. It's important that the notion takes root. That the functioning of an institution and the perspectives and values taught within it have no connection. Operation is measurable in money, awards, whereas art stands above all that, having nothing to do with practical day-to-day affairs. So the rector should calmly continue their aesthetic education in their own way, while, placing her hand on her sunken chest, Mrs. Conrad Drahota says, we, on the other hand, are trying to build a modern, functioning institution around them. The rector must see who deserves the credit that the building is still standing at all, because someone enforces the house rules, coordinates with the ministry, and, forgive the immodesty, constantly devises new, brilliant cost-cutting or revenue-generating strategies, implementing them despite this tragic shortage of personnel and resources. First it's just added to the so-called long-term reform plan, then she convinces everyone it's the least bad option, indeed, that it might even benefit the institution, even save its intellectual spirit. And that spirit is recognized by the fact that it always survives, barely, at the expense of sacrificing other things, and always thanks to Mrs. Drahota. And once, it's saved, all the rector has to do, having by then become little more than a symbol, is fire those pitiful, ex-convict, barely tolerated friends and colleagues. We are not a charity, and replace them with younger, better trained, cheaper labor. As Mrs. Drahota cleverly puts it, this step can no longer be delayed by her frail shoulders in the face of reality's overwhelming force. For those still needing to prove their belonging to the inner circles of the profession, such prominent administrators are quite convenient. They can demonstrate their insider status with casual remarks like, oh, the rector. Don't think they actually do anything. The real rector's been Mrs. Drahota for ages. Mrs. Drahota knows this and is somewhat irritated. After all, the rector is a singular genius, but she hopes that the spread of such silly little sayings at least results in one thing. That they reach the rector's ears, and perhaps prompt a bit of self-reflection, finally leading to the signing of the long-term reform plan. All that remains within the rector's power is to be unreliable, to drift away at times, to let documents pile up on their desk awaiting signature. That's how they still occasionally manage to summon the spirit of the 70s and 80s. Best to switch from mental illnesses to physical ones, something more tangible for today's world, more resonant. For example, Mrs. Drahota is not shy to boast a little that she was informed of one such absence by the rector right after his surgery, and rushed to meet an impatient committee, summoning a taxi straight to oncology. The sudden rejuvenation of the student body in the 2000s was particularly hard on the rector. Until then, students were typically 30-somethings with degrees. Now, in this new EU-compliant system, kids are admitted straight after high school, while they're still moldable. The new students were on a completely different wavelength than the rector. Yet, with admirable elegance, he never condescended, never humiliated them, never confronted them with their ignorance, stagnation, or conformism. Instead, he addressed them with subtle irony, so fine it was almost indecipherable, saying things like, well, look at all I'm learning from you in my old age. When the students made sketch comedy out of the classics, unfamiliar with contemporary artists and assuming no one had ever dared such irreverence before, the rector said, look, I'm a chef who can make a good goulash and a good cottage cheese noodles. What you're cooking, I don't even know the ingredients. I'll taste it in the end and tell you if I like it. Mrs. Drahota was furious. What the bloody hell is this about goulash? She couldn't stand when the rector talked himself down like that. Like in melodramas, where the protagonist, out of incomprehensible humility, doesn't tell the supporting cast, hey, I saved you. I sacrificed my own happiness. I'm dying for you in secret with a broken heart. What's this about Stu? Why doesn't he tell them about his European awards, about who shook his hand in the 70s, how his name still resonates in New York, in Paris? They should be ashamed for not knowing who they're standing in front of, these ignorant swine, she fumed. When students filmed low-budget fantasy scenes against Smurf blue backdrops looking like Hollywood 40 years ago, the rector watched with gentle wonder. Incredible. These effects. He even said that maybe the students could teach the teachers a thing or two. When the students began passing around American screenwriting manuals and only cited American TV series, using the term, Hungarian film, as an insult, raving about well-constructed genre pieces, because now these kids even give interviews, the rector confirmed them in his own interviews, admitting these new American soap operas were quite interesting. In other words, the rector gave up educating and accepted his role as the outdated ant who fell behind the times. The students had every reason to complain they weren't being taught anything, because they weren't. They left as they came. No original artistic personality emerged from among them, at least, Mrs. Drahota secretly believed so. No innate talents among them. That fresh voice, which once appeared in every second class, was missing. But that can't last. Someone will come. There's no such thing as 15, 20 years without a single talented artist being born. She looked reproachfully at the rector, who let them run wild. Beautiful things used to be created here, she thought. It's as if no one wants to create anything beautiful or moving anymore. The students became cynical, professional. They want to debut while still very young. No experiments, they know what they want. Good material, serious students, and Jarmila lets them go. Refuses to be their master. It frustrated Mrs. Drahota, because she believed only the rector could properly channel this professional ambition. But he, yes, let's say it, is too lazy to take them on. Or maybe weak and sick, she thought sadly. Slowly, the idea matured in her mind, that teaching must be adapted to the students' needs. Surely, the students know what they need, and our institution is a great institution precisely because it always strives to provide what is in demand. We move with the times, thought Mrs. Drahota, because that's how confused her thinking had to become to ensure that neither the academy itself, nor her modern, EU-compliant, profit-optimized system could ever fall under suspicion as the root of the problem.